So this is Pat Ennis of Ennis Legacy Partners. Welcome to the Exit Readiness Podcast, actually a special edition of the podcast here in the midst of the coronavirus challenge. I'm here with my co-host, Walter Dial, CPA, tax partner, GRF, CPAs and advisors in Bethesda. We also have with us today Corby McGordon, my business partner at Ennis Legacy Partners. Our mission here on the Exit Readiness Podcast is to provide you, the business owner, with subject matter expertise on topics pertaining to building sellable business value and for planning your eventual exit from the business. We want to help you build a business that's sellable and then help you exit successfully on your own terms and conditions. With all that's happening with the coronavirus, we're all concerned about small businesses. Particularly those of us, of course, who work with small businesses. They're our clients. And their ability, they're being able to weather the storm and last. And federal and state governments are demonstrating their concern, thankfully, through assistance programs. And this morning, this special edition is all about having a conversation to help you, the business owner, navigate through what is actually available to you, if indeed you need assistance, and how to access the programs. And so that's our topic today, SBA and state programs available to you, the small business owners, and how to navigate through. And so, of course, we've invited back a recent guest, Jenn, a founder, co-founder, and COO of One Degree Capital here in the Washington, D.C. area. Jenn has over 18 years of experience in business financing, having directly served over 5,000 clients throughout the nation during that 18 years. Jenn and her husband, Rod, help business owners sort through dozens of financing options to figure out which route is best. And they're finding themselves quite busy, even busier than normal here in the last few days and weeks, and probably in the next few months. So we're real blessed and excited that she was able to rally here this morning and do this emergency podcast, if you will. And by the way, the quality may not be as great as it typically is, because we've got 5 people all quarantined and or 4 people. How many people? 4? All quarantined in different locations. So please be patient with us there. So Jenn, hey, welcome back. Great to have you.
Hey, Pat. Thank you for inviting me to be on here. This is a critical topic right now. It's on everybody's mind. So it's awesome that you guys are rallying this together and getting the word out.
Well, it is, and we couldn't think of anyone better than you and One Degree Capital to help us think through it. And there's a lot to think through, isn't there? So, let's just jump right into it. Jenn, what would be some of your opening comments or thoughts in regard to assistance that is available to small business owners through the federal government as well as state?
Great question. What is on everyone's mind right now is what's been on the news, which is the SBA's Disaster Relief Program. That program is being implemented throughout the country, and we are seeing more and more states becoming eligible for the program. There's a lot of confusion because when you read it on the news or you hear about it on the news, all they say is the SBA loan program, but nobody really knows what that means or what the process is. So there's a lot of confusion around it. And this, hopefully, as we talk a little bit more here, I'm going to give you at a high level what you need to know critically about it, how to apply, what the criteria is, what you can expect in the process.
Yeah, excellent. One follow-up question to those comments right away, Jenn, is how can a business owner know if their state is currently eligible, if they're eligible, if their state's eligible? And then, too, if an owner goes to wherever you're going to send them, I imagine it's going to be the website, and they don't see their state there, why are some states already eligible and why aren't all of them eligible?
Great question. First of all, to let everyone know, the SBA's Disaster Relief Program, they're low interest loans. These are not grants. They're low interest loans. It's 3.75% for up to 30 years. A small business can get up to $2 million for their business. This does not mean everybody's going to qualify for those terms. It is on a case-by-case basis what you qualify for. It is income-based and credit-based. So there's still an approval process to go through. But just so everyone knows, that's what the program is. How it gets implemented. This is a program that is implemented by the SBA when there is a disaster in a particular area. The governor of your state has to request from the SBA that this be activated in their area. This is one of the evolving parts of this right now. Previously, when this was enacted, think hurricanes, droughts, those types of natural disasters. Typically, you're talking a region. So the governor would go in and request certain counties in their area be affected. It's rare that it's a whole state that's impacted. That is how the SBA program has been set up. So if you go onto the SBA site right now to check for eligibility, you're going to see states listed by county. That changed as of, we're doing this podcast on Wednesday morning on March 18th. That changed as of yesterday on March 17th, late yesterday. The SBA changed that and said, okay, if the governor comes in and declares their state a disaster area, we'll apply it to the whole. They don't have to go through county by county. So they are trying to ease that. The website has not caught up with it yet. There is the possibility if you go to the website right now and you try to apply for funds and your county isn't listed, even though your state is, give it time. They have to get everything caught up, but you will be able to apply once your governor has requested the aid. If you go onto the website, which is sba.gov/disaster, and you do not see your state listed yet, I urge you to contact your governor's office immediately and ask them to contact the SBA to be placed on the disaster relief program. That's the only way that your state can get listed, is if the governor directly asks for that support. Virginia was slow on getting that activated. We spent Monday and Tuesday on the phone with reaching the governor's office, the senator's offices, and getting everyone coordinated to get that put on there. Virginia is on there now, but unfortunately only 3 counties because it was enacted as of the old way. So as of this morning, if you're in Fairfax County, Arlington County, or Alexandria, you are able to apply. Similarly, if you're in all of DC, in Maryland, if you are in Montgomery County or PG County, you are able to apply as of this morning. If you're in any other county, we need to wait until your county is listed on the SBA site. You just need to be checking back. But as soon as your county is listed, go through the application process.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jen. This is, I think it's going to be really, really helpful for clients. So basically, this is a program making loans theoretically even more easily accessible to these businesses. It's really just an acceleration or an expansion of an existing program, because I know I was familiar with it. We experienced a flood in North Carolina, and I think it was a very similar program that they had available to our county in North Carolina. Is that correct?
Yes, great question. So this is, the SBA has had this disaster relief loan program for several years. It's enacted whenever there is a disaster in a particular area. So this is not general financial assistance. This is hardship. It's you have to show that you have an economic injury in order to qualify for these loans. It's not just if you have a business, you can go on and apply and get funds. It's a hardship loan. It's based on the impact to whatever the disaster is. It's based on the impact to your business. The loan amount is going to vary based on what your business revenue is and the amount of revenue that's impacted by the virus. Great example is if you're a restaurant that was forced to close and you now have 100% loss of revenue, you're going to apply for working capital funds to recover and recoup 100% of your lost revenue. If you're a dentist office, maybe you're still open for emergency cases, but the routine cleanings and all of that you don't have on your books right now. So maybe you have a 70% loss of revenue. So when you go to apply, they're going to ask you, what is your economic injury? How much revenue have you lost during this? Or are you going to be losing during this. And that's the criteria for the basis of how much you'll be able to get. The loan amount, when you get the funds, the intention of them is to be used to pay for things like payroll, rent, those types of fixed costs that you'll be able to pay those while you're having a loss of revenue.
Jenn, where a lot of small business owners may not actually have financial projections for the next 6 months, and even the time specificity of this window, who knows? How would you advise an owner where they've experienced a couple weeks of potentially catastrophic loss, but the future is really uncertain? How would you advise them to think about what to even ask for and how to quantify that impact?
That's a great question. The best thing to do is to get your application in to ask for something. The application, as it goes along the process, it will evolve, and it's not going to be, if you say you ask for $100,000 and that's to cover you for a month or 2 months, and then you realize that you're 2 months in and you're still having an economic hardship. The program isn't going to end overnight. So you would be able to, as you're working with the SBA officer who's assigned to your case, you will be able to go back and adjust those amounts. And they do that regularly throughout any disaster program. Things evolve. You're right. There's a lot of unknowns when disasters like this start. But it is, I do believe it is important to get your application in as quickly as possible. One thing I will stress is this disaster relief program is meant to be something that happens regionally for things like hurricane or, Walter, like you said, a flood in an area. This, to my knowledge, is the first time it is being enacted on this scale. So you have in a normal, quote unquote, normal disaster, the processing time for these loans is typically 2 to 3 weeks. That's to get it processed through once they have everything they need from you. There are a lot of paperwork. It is the government. There are a lot of paperwork things they're going to ask you for. And we can go into what those are. But the important thing to know is to get your application in, to get that process started. There's going to be a lot of businesses, more than has ever applied for this type of relief program. So it is important to get your application in soon to get it working on.
Yeah, so it's going to be important then, isn't it, Jenn, that businesses have a way of self-supporting, hopefully a line of credit that is available, or cash on hand to self-support until the funds become available. And so you of course, you don't know this at this point, but you just communicated that in typical circumstances, it's 2 to 3 weeks, the application process. And then from that point, how long is it before the funds actually show up in the owner's account?
When it's your quote unquote typical disaster of a regional area, when it's that, typically they will have the first 25,000 they try to make available very quickly to get something into a particular business while they're working out the rest of the process. After that, it's, it does evolve and depends on the needs of the client. They are things that can be redrawn. So it's not that you get all the funds in one tranche and that's it. You can't ask for any more. It is possible to be able to redraw from these as the situation evolves.
Hey, Jenn, I know this isn't the exact topic, but Pat mentioned businesses with lines of credit. Do you think there's a possibility that lines of credit could be frozen by banks? Or do businesses have the right to access them if they're currently in place?
Walter, that's a great question. I've also been on the phone with several banks checking in on their lending criteria as of yesterday. As of yesterday, when I was speaking with banks, it's interesting answers. They'll say their lending criteria has not changed. The challenge is the reality of businesses have changed. They don't have the revenue coming in that they believe they will. Couple things will happen with that. If you already have a line of credit and you know that in the next few months, your revenue is going to be significantly different, if your line of credit faces quarterly updates, and you have to provide quarterly financials to maintain that line, and you have certain covenants on income to debt ratios, those are about to wildly change for a lot of businesses. In response to that, there's been making the news, a lot of businesses that have large lines of credit are pulling the entire amounts of their lines before they can be called. That's not, am I telling every business owner to do that? Absolutely not. Every situation is different. But I will say that if you have an existing line of credit, be cognizant of the fact that your next quarterly statement that you send to the bank may not meet the financial covenants. It's important to be talking to your bank about what they plan to do about that. Could lines of credit be frozen? They absolutely could. That's a reality that I think a lot of business owners need to understand. And no bank is talking about doing that right now. I think a lot of banks are still assessing what's going on, but I think that is a reality that everyone needs to be prepared for.
So, Jenn, would you advise business owners to early on now draw down their line of credit to protect against that?
If I were a business owner who had access to a large line of credit, I would probably draw from it. I would probably draw it down to have that cash on hand. That's not going to make a lot of my bank friends happy, but it's the reality of the situation. It's probably the first thing I would do. That you need to have the access to that cash. The second thing that you need to do, though, is take a hard look at your expenses and make cuts wherever possible. Don't wait for that. One thing to really look at what is your cash flow need for the next 90 days. We have some businesses that we've spoken with this week who are wrestling with what to do with their employees. For Virginia, at least, the Virginia governor just yesterday came out and authorized that unemployment benefits no longer have any waiting period. So if someone is laid off due to the coronavirus, they're eligible for immediate benefits. That's great. But as a business owner, we need to keep in mind that you need to actually lay those people off for the reason of coronavirus in order for them to be eligible. So making those tough decisions is tough. And I get that. It's a difficult decision. But by delaying those decisions, you're impacting your employees even further by making it so that it's harder for them to get the type of help that's out there for them. Our employees are able to get unemployment benefits for reduced hours as well. Obviously, it's not as much of a benefit, but that is something to consider as well.
Yeah, along that lines, Jenn, what else would you advise an owner to be thinking about in terms of just cash conservation? Because again, this is new territory for a lot of small business owners. Absolutely.
So first thing I would say, again, don't wait. Take an honest assessment of your cash flow needs for the next 90 days now. The next thing I would suggest is if you haven't filed your tax return yet and think you'll get a refund, file now. Get that refund processing. If you believe that you will owe money, the Treasury just this week did delay the April 15th filing deadline. They've extended that to July 15th. There will also be no interest and no penalties for people who don't pay the taxes that are owed until July 15th. So look at that as an alternative as well. If you had that money in your bank account, you were planning on using that to pay for your taxes, use that to fund cash flow. Keep in mind that come July 15th, you're gonna owe that money. So do have a plan for that, but that at least can give you some sort of a cushion.
Yeah, and I've got a number of clients who own commercial buildings, and a lot of their tenants have said we can't afford to pay rent, and the landlords are being very generous in that area as far as not. And there are there's rules in place now, I think, from the government, although it's probably just residential as far as evictions and stuff. But I think rent is a major expense for most companies, and that's probably one area where you can contact your landlord and probably pay a reduced or just defer the entire rent for a period of time.
Absolutely. Communication is key. That's probably the biggest thing to do is to pick up the phone and talk to people. Your landlord, obviously, if your landlord or your mortgage holder on your commercial property is a great first place to start. If you already have an SBA loan, if you have a 7A or any type of loan under the SBA program, there are payment deferral options for hardship times. The best thing to do would be to contact the bank where you had the SBA loan originated and start that process with them. That can include, in some cases, they will defer both the principal and interest. In other cases, they'll defer just the principal, and you can make interest-only payments for a period of time. But those types of things are in place. Nobody wants a business to default. That's the last thing that anybody wants, because nobody wins in that situation. But the key to avoiding that is communication. So wherever you have those debts, whoever you have it with, I encourage you to give them a call, see what can be worked out. There are options.
Along those lines again, Jen, it can be a temptation, particularly if you have vendors, to just flat stretch vendor payments out for an extra 30 to 45 days. But there are consequences to that as well. Could you just comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Again, communication is key. Think about that vendor as well. They're also a business owner. So they're at the same time trying to assess their revenue projections for the next 90 days. If you're planning or you're unable to pay them, they need to know that, because that impacts, again, they're probably going to apply for assistance as well. They need to know what their numbers look like. Communication is going to be key. You're not the only one that's contacting them to say, hey, we need to work this out because I can't pay you like I thought I was going to be able to. But to keep those conversations going. Similarly, if you have loans from other sources, a lot of people, especially a lot of business owners, have non-bank loans, alternative loans, working capital loans, those types of things. Give those lenders a call. See what can be worked out. Again, nobody wants to have mass defaults. That's a no-win situation. So people will be reasonable and work things out.
Yeah, and along those lines, hey, Pat, I'm going to give you a 5-day grace period to pay that tax prep bill, okay?
Yeah, thanks. I've already paid it. Can I get it back?
No.
Yeah, so, hey, Jen, you may have already answered this, so forgive me if you have, but is there like a one-size-fits-all type of financing, or will it depend on the size, number of employees, and annual income of a business?
It will all depend. It is on a case-by-case basis. So each application is taken individually. So there's no one-size-fits-all for the SBA loan program. They will, when you go to apply, and again, when you go to apply, you want to go to sba.gov/disaster. Both the eligible states and the actual loan application are on the same page there. Be sure to have your documents ready. As you go through even the process, it's going to ask you for several things. You're going to need copies of your most recent tax returns. You're going to need your financial statements for your business. So be sure to if you don't do your books yourself, contact your CPA to be able to get those. You're going to need to understand what your monthly sales figures are. You're going to need to fill out what's called a personal financial statement. And that's where you're listing all of your assets and liabilities on a personal level. Even though this is a business loan, they're going to look at your personal debt as well. It's not guaranteed, and not everyone will qualify. This is also credit-based. Certain things that typically disqualify someone from an SBA loan are things like if they already have tax liens that they owe the government on. Typically, you're not eligible for an SBA loan. If you're in a bankruptcy or you've recently had a bankruptcy, it's going to be tougher to get one of these loans. If your credit is below average, it's also going to be difficult to get one of these loans. So it's definitely not a fix-all for every business that's out there.
So, Jen, it seems like, too, that the deferral of taxes through July 15th could be a good strategy for kind of a bridge between if you are a business owner, you have been affected and you're applying and you're not going to get the funds immediately. It's a process, need to be approved. Deferring the taxes that you were planning on paying until July 15th may give you that cash as a bridge until you do get reimbursed. And then also the loans are being processed by SBA and not banks that are SBA banks, right?
Correct. This is the disaster relief program is an SBA Direct Program. So you do not have to go through a bank. You go straight to the SBA website and you fill out the application straight through them. You're assigned immediately to an SBA loan officer.
Yeah. And would you have handy the websites that you would send people to for information?
Yes. The one-stop shop that no matter where your business is located, go to sba.gov/disaster. That gives you the list of who is eligible. It also allows you to apply online. If you have applied, it allows you to check on the status of your loan.
All right. Terrific. Well, Jen, gosh, you're becoming a regular and we love it. You're a great guest.
You guys are a great group. Thank you. Thank you again for having me. I know this is a difficult time and things are constantly evolving. So if things change significantly, we should talk again.
Yeah, please. That would be great. And again, thanks for rallying so quickly. We emailed you yesterday and here you are bright and early this morning. We're very grateful. And this content is just going to prove to be extremely helpful for our listeners, our clients and our listeners. So thank you. And we'll have you back probably sooner rather than later. Jen, if people want to contact you directly, you and Rod at 1 Degree Capital, how should they do that?
Sure. You can always go to our website, onedegreecapital.com. I also realize this is a really confusing time for people. There's a lot of documents and things that you have to get together. So if it's just all confusing and completely overwhelming and you just need to talk to somebody, you can get a link directly to my calendar to schedule a call with me. And you can get to that pretty easily. It's scheduleacallwithjen.com. Again, it's just scheduleacallwithjen.com. That'll take you right to my calendar. You can book a time. We can talk for a few minutes and help you with any question that you have about the SBA program.
For our regular listeners, you certainly are familiar with what Pat and I do to help businesses grow their value. But we're really focused on today is just trying to get information out there that can help our listeners just survive this current horrible situation. And if you need any additional help getting through this time, please feel free to reach out to Pat at 301-859-0860, or you can call me at 301-951-9090. And you can always access resources, and you have access to us at exitreadiness.com, grfcpa.com, and nslp.com. But, feel free to reach out. We're happy to refer you to any resources that we're aware of, and we will get through this time together. Thank you for listening.